This is Castletown, my home. There's no women, there's no work, and no crack. The one bit of good news is Ireland have qualified for the Euros out in Poland.
First, they took Ireland by storm.
Where are you going?
Going to watch the boys in green. Enjoying the summer, trying to master self-belief. Yeehaw!
Now, the Hardy Bucks
You'll be out there with the rest of them on the way to Poland now. It's a matter of national pride this time. Your country needs you.
are hitting Europe. They're going to support the boys in green.
You owe me €4,000.
Any chance you can burn me a copy of that, is there?
$4,000.
This February,
We don't get that across the border to Poland in the next 2 days.
You don't even want to know, man.
these small-town Bucks
Do you know how to speak English? Is that French, is it? And then if we're coming back, this is where the magic happens.
You never even had a chance to blow my vuvuzela.
are taking on Europe.
Never get the ball into the first place. Lads, I need your help. Are you with me, are you?
The Hardy Bucks movie.
Right, mate. I think I've broken me.
We're live.
We are live. Martin, how are you, mate?
Very good, Chris. Thank you very much. How are you doing?
Oh, it's so excellent to speak to you. I'm absolutely made up.
Excellent to speak to you too, mate. I was
Yeah.
I was very impressed with the Robbie Williams interview. I was like, if it's good enough for Robbie Williams, it's good enough for Martin Maloney.
Well, you know, it's I was good in that. Yeah, I must say I was.
Yeah, you played a blinder. It's a fine map of the world you have there.
Yeah, I love it. You know, I know there's some dispute about what shape the world is. I don't really care. I kind of know myself because I've driven from here to here. So Norway, part of the world that you're nearly in or almost in, to India, and then I drove back again. I can assure people
Wow.
it felt, I wouldn't say it felt round, it actually felt quite flat all the way, but the landscape really does change as if you're going around a sphere. But one other time I went down here, oh yeah, there actually is a bit there, isn't there? Look, that bit there's Antarctica. And no, it's not an ice wall, folks. Unless I'm mental and I've completely got all this wrong, it's a landmass. And the reason I say it's a landmass is when I stepped ashore in Antarctica, I stepped onto rocks. I actually stepped ashore in a t-shirt. It was that warm.
Really?
Because it's not actually that cold when you get to the fringe of Antarctica. But this thing about, hey, it's a flat earth and it's just an ice wall and you can't like go, well, I can only tell people. I don't want to try and convince anyone because it sounds like I'm one of them.
Yeah.
And I think me and you, mate, we definitely not one of them, are we?
Yeah. I think I think you can entertain an idea without having to let it change your opinion. And I think a lot of people these days are afraid of even entertaining an idea. You know what I mean? I think you've got to process all information with a decently opened mind, but not too open.
Well, and the other thing, Martin, is you've got to be aware that the CIA or their dark shadow element, the guys that were running the cocaine back into the USA from Nicaragua during the Iran-Contra affair, I'm not going to talk the history of, guys can just Google it. Google Iran-Contra, Bill Clinton's airport, hostages.
Bit of Arkansas action, was it?
Well, sorry, mate. Say that again because I'm terrible for not bloody listening.
Was it the airport in Arkansas? Was it?
Yeah, well, that was supposed to be Bill Clinton's private airport or something, right? But basically, all these people that we pray to for being, gods and goddesses, i.e., the Clintons and the Bush family, are actually like massive crime families, and people don't get that. They just and this is why I say, people, don't vote, please. Don't go and vote. Talk about a new system.
There has to be a new system. I think what happens is I think what I've noticed nowadays is people have been split into two camps. It's like, the right or the left. And I seen a good meme today, which was the left say that powerful billionaires are the problem. The right say big government is the problem. And then there was just a meme with Brad Pitt in the middle saying, well, it's just powerful billionaires controlling a powerful government. People are too quick to pin themselves onto a political paradigm, whereas if you just acknowledge the fact that you are a person going through the world trying to figure out what's going on and try to be as neutral as possible and just trust your instinct. That's the way I look at it. Instead of, there's a lot of people out there who have agendas and, and the way I look at it, everyone's kind of being pitted against each other and they're broken into different groups under this new intersectionality and subgroups and along the lines of ethnic and religious bases, and we're all in this, we're all in it together, as I say about the NHS. But and I just think it's easy for people to exploit the division amongst demographics. But there seems to be like a new group of, Twitterati or like mobs on the internet who just, they can't, as I said earlier on, they can't entertain an idea. They won't. There's no room for open debate anymore. It's like, oh, I'm not going to give my platform to that person because I don't agree with them. And usually in the old days, maybe until about 5 or 6 years ago, people would overlook a certain element that they disagree with in others. But nowadays it's like they focus on what they disagree on more so than what they agree on. Yeah. So I don't know why people have become so rigid in their thinking of late. And one of the best things for me, Chris, personally, is when I moved back to Sweden, I just didn't bother putting the TV. I didn't bother connecting it to the wall. And it's amazing how, I looked at I don't even know why I got so into geopolitics and global events, because 10 years ago when the Hardy Book started out, I was trying to climb the ladder of entertainment, and I suppose I was motivated by a bit of narcissism. I thought it was good that people were like, oh look, I love the show, and of course you're young and you grow up, and it's all about being a pop star, being a rock star, being a footballer, and people are conditioned to want adulation. And then, I've had a taste of it, and I've had some good times, I've had some bad times, and there's been some nice creamy bits in the middle. And you come to the point where like, yeah, I'm kind of happy at the level I'm at. You had Robbie Williams on there who fair play to. I mean, he was a really nice, chilled out, working class lad from Stoke who made it big from hard work. Fair play to him. And I think he's one of the guys who didn't let it get to his head. And even when you were talking about Liam Gallagher as well, like I've met Liam twice, and the thing is, I have to say about when you meet Liam Gallagher, he's the real deal.
Yeah,
it's not an act, and they're good Irish lads behind the scene as well. They're actually from the next town to me.
Martin, my whole thing with Liam, right, and I'm saying this so he doesn't want to come and fight me. I will win. I will win. No, I'm not like it's. If you actually remember my question with Rob, it's like, who puts the owls in the video? That was my question. And for people listening, no, we don't hate owls. We love owls. We love all beings. Horses, donkeys, otters, tigers. Do we love the monkeys or?
Yeah, they're good. They're good lads. They are. Yeah.
What about those snakes? They're a bit like
dodgy, man. Dodgy, like the viper.
Yeah, we will talk about viper. Viper. What's the cat?
Yeah. Scary dick lips.
My only question, I said to Rob, I'd love to go for a beer with Liam. It would be great. I'm sure he's a really down-to-earth guy.
I'd say it'd be brilliant, crack.
Who puts this stuff in the music videos? But again, that's like another...
Well, I'd like to discuss that because I have been thinking about that and what my opinion on that would be. Like my ex and myself, like before, one of the reasons why she said that we'd kind of grown apart was we couldn't watch films anymore because we're watching the film and I'd just be pointing out the agenda and everything, like, nah, I'm not having this, man. You can see it. So I just got to the point where But I remember watching a video years ago. There's a guy called there's Alan Watts, the philosopher. It's Alan Watt, is it? This other guy, and he's a bearded guy with a hat, Scottish guy, I think. And he's like, I had a friend whose brother was in the CIA, and he told me you should never watch television and film because it's all control. It's a way of you basically go into a theater and you're in a darkened room, and when you're in a relaxed state, your brain goes into alpha waves, a state of alpha waves, and it's very easy to slip a narrative on the unsuspecting mind. Which kind of leads me on to another thought I had, which was how many of us are actually the fundamental components of our psyche, the thoughts we have, the fears we have. How many of them are there purely because of films and TV shows we've watched? You're living through a series of orchestrated traumas, especially if you watch like horror movies and thrillers and this kind of thing. You're living through a trauma that never happened. And then on top of that, you have rolling news that's constantly spreading fear throughout the population. And what is fear?
False expectations appear real.
That's the one. I've forgotten. I was like, shit, what was it again? Yeah, false expectations.
I got you back, dude. I got you back.
Thanks very much, mate. I appreciate it. I was like, shit, I forgot about that one. Yeah, the brain's a bit tired tonight. But yeah, so basically it's there's nothing really. I mean, obviously, yeah, you need to be cautious about the world, and don't be reckless. But
can I,
yeah.
Martin? Sorry to interrupt you. I just want to come back to my point before people are going, Chris, what were you saying about the CIA?
Yeah, I'm an awful man for tangents. Sorry.
No, it's fine. But my point was, like, it's alleged. I'm saying that because it doesn't come from me then, but all this stuff you see about like JFK assassination, all these movies that tell you that there's 75 billion magic bullets and all this kind of nonsense stuff, I'm going to say the events in New York. I think everyone knows what we're talking about. All those films.
What, the Met Gala?
Right. But they're all funded and budgeted by CIA, by the dark elements within allegedly, guys, by the CIA. This is why they love it that you buy into flat earth theory. They love it because they're the same people that came up with the term conspiracy theorist. And they came up with the term conspiracy theorist to make people look like idiots if they question the JFK assassination. I know you know this, Ryan, right? So it's the same thing again with the flat earth and all the documentaries you see that purport to tell the truth. Nah, they're funded by the same people. They tell you this narrative that gets you excited. Oh, we're going to find out what happened to Building 7. Yeah. Oh, it's stupid conspiracy theory. Honey, it's the conspiracy idiots. I know, they're so clever at manipulating the public conscience, and the flat earth thing is just exactly the same. It's them getting that they're just chucking shit out there, order out of chaos to make our world chaos. So we're all arguing about, are we black? Are we white? Are we gay? Are we straight? Do we, drink this kind of water, or do we drink that kind of, or do we wear this? It's called order out of chaos. And while everybody's fighting and scrapping with each other, they're laughing their asses off, mate, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah, it's all distracting. It's all everyone's pointing the finger at each other on the bottom rung of the ladder. While look at Bezos. I mean, the guy was worth 120 billion last year, and since this whole pandemic, he's a trillionaire. And he also sold his stocks, or didn't he step down as CEO as well? There was a whole lot of CEOs who stepped down from, I think, including Gates as well. Who I'll tell you something about Gates. I was, just to go off on a side note here. I was in the pub there about a month ago, and sometimes I get a bit rowdy. That's my personality. And apropos of nothing, I just went, "Bill Gates is a wrong 'un," like this. And there was a fellow who came up to me the next day and he goes, "Martin, no, you'd want to reel it in about Bill Gates. The man is a humanitarian." And I said, "What?" And then I was talking to him, and I was thinking, there's no point in me trying to convince him because his mind is closed. So I said to him, "What? Do you know him personally? Can you vouch for him personally? Do you know him well?" oh yeah, I'm thick. Yeah, I'm thick. And I went, you know what? We'll just agree to disagree. And that was it. I didn't need to push it anymore. But there's no smoke without fire. And if you're mates with Eggstain, he's dodgy. Maxwell, I mean, these are people you certainly don't want to be associated with. And I mean, I know the further you go up the chain in all industries, at the top they all start kind of overlapping because it becomes a smaller pool of people. And there's a lot of people who do well, but like if you compare most pop stars, and they could be they could be rich into the hundreds of millions, but you're comparing that against like financial elite and people who own pharmaceutical companies who are or Jeff Bezos who are trillionaires, multi-billionaires.
When you look at like Jay-Z and all that, I mean, they're pocket change, aren't they, compared to the real wealth in the world?
But they probably want to get in on that action as well. They probably because the thing is, if you remember in the 2016 elections, what really a lot of people they turn a blind eye to their own, especially like people who were pro-Hillary during the 2016 elections. Like, I think she was on stage with Jay-Z and Beyonce, and he's going, them hoes, them bitches, and all this kind of stuff. And you're like, well, where's the outrage for that language? Did you ever follow this thing in Hollywood a couple of years ago about this Randy Quaid and the Star Whackers?
Yes.
Yeah. I looked into that as well, and I wouldn't be surprised. They were talking about Chris Penn, David Carradine, and a few others. There was some sort of guy. And again, you can't go throwing names out there because they're a litigious bunch of bastards over in America. But there was a law firm who apparently was in charge of the estates of the deceased entertainers. And I think Randy Quaid's a bit out there anyway. And but it was an interesting thing just to kind of, again, you can entertain these things and have a look at them. But I'd say there was a lot of mad shit going on in Hollywood. I mean, I think actors are by definition of personality quite narcissistic. They like the idea of people gushing praise over them. And I don't know if you ever been to Hollywood, but it's the kind of place where everyone's like, that's great, man. You're great. You're fantastic. You're going places, man. You know what? When you make it, you come back to me and I'll say, I told you we're going to make it. It's a strange kind of culture. You're there for about a week or so, and then you're starting to look at yourself going, shit, I'm really scruffy and out of shape compared to these dudes. Maybe I should get Botoxed and hit the tanning salon. Just eat nothing but kale for a week.
That's another thing again, isn't it? When you see some cool celebrity, and then the next thing you know, they've done all this stuff to their face and they look like they just...
Well, I suppose it's not even celebrities nowadays. It's everybody. People are now so used to seeing themselves on camera all the time that it's like, I don't look like that, do I? It's like the equivalent of when you'd hear yourself over a microphone years ago. You're like, do I really sound like that? Like, I think people are now... It's a very, very weird time to be living in. Like, everybody has access to recording equipment, HD, 4K recording equipment in their pocket, and it's like living in a hall of mirrors. So it's I don't know why people are so focused on vanity, but again, it's the fashion industry, the cosmetic industry is a multi-billion dollar industry, and it's in the interests to. I mean, look at advertising. Edward Bernays, he started, he was the godfather of PR and Freud's nephew. And this is another thing I always bring up as well is there's a lot of people who champion causes, and I think it's like a misplaced altruism that a lot of people ascribe to these days, where they'll champion causes and referendums and campaigns without knowing the true nature of who's behind it or what the reason is. And if you look at the Labor Day, I watched this in Adam Curtis's Century of the Self, but there was, the cigarette companies went to Edward Bernays because it was taboo for women to smoke cigarettes. So he orchestrated, I don't know if it was to do with the suffragette movement, but it was something to do with women's liberation, where women would walk down Fifth Avenue smoking cigarettes, as an act of defiance, but really they played into a scheme to get them hooked on cigarettes.
Of course.
You know, and this is the kind of thing where people don't know how to question mainstream media. They just think because you've got these well polished, you know, well spoken, lit people on stage or in front of the camera giving them information that it's a trusted. Most of these pictures are photoshopped. You know, they're put, like most of these models you see, or actresses. You know, some of them look great in real life, but sometimes you see them on an off day and you're like, well, what's the big deal? And it's because most of these pictures are photoshopped, and I mean, they're unreal. Especially like you have teenage girls looking at these music videos or Instagram models and models in magazines and all this kind of thing, and it's treated. It's not real, and then they feel like they're inferior, and then you know they're doing surgery. One of the things I see is these duck lips everywhere, you know, and the Kardashians. If the Kardashians do something, I mean, if the Kardashians sneeze in California, the world catches herpes.
Yeah, it's like anybody can do what they want with their body. It's their body, and no one else has a right to say this, that. I would just say to any young women watching, you are so beautiful as you are. And if your man is going, yeah, get that, honey, because then he's a fucking idiot. He should be encouraging you to feel beautiful as you are, because every human being that is it. And do you know what? Most men, they just want a partner that likes them, that laughs at their jokes. Here's another thing again, and sorry if this upsets anyone, but I just think women are so much more beautiful without makeup on. I just genuinely do. When I see like the heavily made up, I'm like,
it's mad because you can meet some women. You can meet some women without makeup the day after meeting them with makeup, and you're like, you could walk past them on the street. If you meet someone who always, like, for example, my ex-girlfriend years ago, she was a goth, or she was a goth. I mean, she spent like an hour and a half doing her makeup, and then some of the friends that she would have known from being out and about, she could walk right past them in the street; they wouldn't recognize her. But she was very beautiful. I mean, the girl was, you know, Swedish girl, and was very attractive without all the makeup. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, each to their own, you know. But I think one of the best things you can do is just unplug from mainstream media, television, and just, you know, just unplug and stay out of that, because even with guys, you're expected to you know, go out with some of the best looking women going, because that's what TV taught you. I mean, I was watching Clueless recently, and there's a bit in Clueless. This is another thing which they were saying, like, you know, oh, what, you're still a virgin? And like, they're 15. And you're thinking, like, how many impressionable women in the 90s watched that and were like, oh no, it's uncool to be a virgin, so I'm going to have to go and leave.
Yeah.
Like, and that's how I was thinking as well. You know, you watch things like American Pie 2 as an 18-year-old, and you'd be like,
Martin, do you not think none of our decisions that are made in society are in the benefit of the people? It's all benefits the corporations. You know,
yeah, but that's what I'm saying. But they think that's their own. They think these are their own thoughts. But it's from programming. I mean, television programming. There was I watched that film recently, Out of Shadows, about that stuntman who made the TV show, and it says that all of the original radio channels were run by ex-military heads of communications and military. And like, if you look at America, for example, as a nation, man, they're completely being, like, the lifeblood of that country is being drained by financial elite, completely, and a corrupt government. And
massively,
you know,
and the sad thing is, they get Americans to argue amongst themselves all about it. They don't realize, no, you're being played, your whole country, along with Israel, along with the UK, is being played by greedy little men that don't give a shit about all those three places.
No, they don't.
They absolutely don't.
You know, and it's interesting. We were talking earlier on about, you know, JFK and the New York incident. And it's afterwards when you see something like this happening that you realize it doesn't matter how many people come out afterwards and show you information that makes you believe that it wasn't what we were told, but it doesn't matter because they've already got what they wanted now. You know, they went into Iraq. You know, they got what they wanted out of Iraq. They went into Afghanistan, and the thing is, again, you know, they're using their military, who are young men and women who go into the army because they believe that they're defending their own borders and keeping their people safe, and people go into it for good reasons. And then if you look at America, like a lot of the soldiers who go into the army are from poor families, and it's their only way out to get like a third level education and benefits and that kind of thing. And they're thrown into parts of the world that don't really have anything to do with them, because it's. So 1 second, gotta keep getting the phone call from my ma. Can we pause this bit?
Yeah, go for it, man.
You all right here? But sorry about that. We can go from.
Hey, it's cool. No, I'm in that boat because, you know, obviously I joined the military, and it was an amazing experience for somebody like me who came from a, you know.
Well, I wanted to be in the military as well, to be honest with you.
Say again?
You know, I wanted to be in the military as well. The thing is for me, like, you know, being at my, like the Irish Army, and like back at the time when I was a teenager, I grew up watching, you know, war films and being like, oh, war must be brilliant. This is from a Hollywood point of view. And it's like, if you look at a lot of these commercials in America, for example, during the Super Bowl, and it's like, join the army. Yeah, exactly. Tom Brady.
Can I just say massive thank you to my subscriber for sending me this T-shirt. I love you. Very kind of you. Nice
T-shirt as well.
Yeah,
the champs.
Kind of red. It's not. I haven't worn red for many a year, but I think it's in this year.
Yeah, looks good. But I was going to say, like, a lot of these adverts are kind of, they look like Modern Warfare. You know, like they look like computer games. And if you're playing Modern Warfare, there's a lot different to. I mean, I've not been out. Thankfully, I've not been in any military situations. But you know, I'd say it's a very different story when you're killing people and people are trying to kill you, and you know, then you realize you've just killed someone's son or brother. You know, and these are the things that like I was always watching. I was one of those guys. Like I was one of those kids. I'd watched TV, and if someone got killed, I'd be like, I'm sure he was all right. Like henchman, I'd be like, he probably got to the hospital later on. That was the way I always looked at it. But yeah, it's you kind of realize that a lot of the military is kind of, you know, it's not as cut and dry as these are the bad guys who are coming to invade us. It's more so, you know, you're doing the bidding of, you know, look at apparently Saddam Hussein. He had to go because he wanted to change the sales of oil from dollars to euros. Same with Gaddafi in Libya. He wanted to get gold for his oil, you know, and money talks and bullshit walks. And unfortunately, those lads had to, you know, like that was the thing. And the media played into that because it was like, oh, Gaddafi, he's been subjugating his people and oppressing them for too long. And I'm sure he probably wasn't, you know, perfect, but he was a lot better than what they have now. Same with Assad in Syria or Saddam Hussein, you know, and now the, you know, the whole neocon movement is trying to angle towards invading Iran with, you know, Pompeo and John Bolton.
Martin, can we just, while we're on the subject, so people know what we're talking about, right? I say, look at the policy. Don't take idiots like me, what I'm saying. Look at the policy that's been written. And in America, it was the Project for the New American Century, wasn't it? It was this a neocon, so a new conservative think tank called the Project for the New American Century that were kind of advising the Bush administration. I think many of the people that were writing for this project were in the administration. If they were, they weren't. It's kind of irrelevant. But they actually wrote policy to say, America, I think the actual paper, if you want to Google it, friends at home, it's called Rebuilding America's Defenses. When you read that paper, it said America needs
a new Pearl Harbor.
Increase its military dominance in the world. Like, why? Right?
Yeah.
But this is not going to happen unless we have a new Pearl Harbor. And then, of course, what happened? The events in New York, right? So it's like a script that's already been written. So when guys like you, Martin, are brave enough to talk about like what is the military and what role they do, it's not about you. Go and read the paper. It says.
And I just also want to say as well, like this is no disrespect to people who are in the service, because you know, I feel for them, because a lot of them are you know, a lot of them have to say, every time they say bye to their kids or their families, they're being put into harm's way, you know, and they joined up because, like, if I joined the army, like after what happened in New York, I wanted to go and get revenge. I met people over in the States who said, yeah, we signed up after what happened in New York, and then we were out in Iraq. And we were like, and I said, well, this was like 2006. I met these guys, and they were like, well, we were over there and we were fighting in Iraq, and we were like, what the hell are we doing over here? I mean, what have these people, you know, I remember they came out, it was all over Fox News, terror alert, elevated. And it's like, they had this whole deck of cards, Chemical Ali. And it's always the threat of, they tried to do the same thing to Assad, saying that he'd had a chemical gas attack in Douma. And this was what I was going to say earlier on about watching mainstream news, and even publications like The Guardian, you think, are, you know, a bit more pro-peace. And, you know, they were coming out, because when the Maidan riots and all that kind of stuff started in Ukraine in 2014, I'd be watching RTE News, which is state news in Ireland, and I'd be like reading articles on The Guardian. And I was like, yeah, Putin, he's bringing in the soldiers in now, he's dodgy. Like, they're all dodgy. They're all basically vying for dominance and supremacy. But it was very interesting how apparently George Soros had something to do with funding right-wing extremists in those riots. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but, you know, there was also, it's a strategic place, is Ukraine, because there's a pipeline that goes from Russia into Europe. And the same thing with Syria. They would have had to have put a pipeline through Syria from the Gulf states, which would have went through Syria and Turkey.
Yeah, and didn't they say that was about Afghanistan, wasn't it? Were they not trying to build just looking at my map up here, was it some pipeline they needed to build to the Caspian Sea to get the oil out? And then, of course, we got the world's biggest producer of opium.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of things with Afghanistan. I mean, the Romans, Alexander the Great couldn't take Afghanistan because of the terrain. It's easy to be ambushed. The same thing with Russia when they were fighting the Mujahideen as well. They took severe casualties because of the terrain. It's guerrilla warfare, but in the Tora Bora mountain range, and most of your supply lines had to go through very treacherous mountain passes. But I think Afghanistan itself is a strategic striking point. So if because you've got China, you've got Iran, Pakistan, Russia. If you look at it strategically, it's right smack bang in the middle of those areas. There's also, apparently, I don't know if this is true or not, there was supposed to be one of the biggest lithium mines in the world in Afghanistan, which these long-term speculators would have known that they were going to be gradually switching from the combustion engine to rechargeable batteries and electronic cars. So that my eldest sister Tricia, she's always been interested in this kind of stuff as well. On the latest podcast, if you're interested in this, I'll give the podcast to the Hardy Books podcast. We talk about this kind of stuff.
Hey mate, I'm coming on there, right?
Yeah, it'd be awesome to bring you on. Yeah, absolutely. I've had Eddie Bravo on there before, and John McAfee, and Paul Gallagher, Liam and Noel's older brother. He's a good mate of mine. So there's been a couple of interesting characters on there before. But but back to Afghanistan. Why would they be interested in taking that part of the world, which is, there's not really an awful lot going on up there, is there? But there must be something of interest.
Yeah, and is it worth pointing out it is in the region of Israel, and it's if it wasn't controlled by Israel, it could all go quite wrong for them, right? I mean, it's that sort of region.
Well, there's a lot of arguments for the fact that the powers that be, who are, Netanyahu and those kind of guys, they it was in their interest to break up, to use sectarian violence in the Middle East to, I suppose, dilute the strength of Sunni nations. Yes. And now you've got the likes of Kissinger, who's coming in with his concerns about there being a Shia crescent, that they've started this. Maybe it's better off just to let people be and stop fucking about and causing all this fucking hassle. And I think for me, this all kind of started in 2014 with Operation Shield's Edge, and I just, I was looking at all these videos on YouTube with them pulling kids out of rubble, and I've got kids myself, man, and I remember I was with my mother-in-law in IKEA and picking some shelves up, and I was just in tears. She was like, "What the hell's wrong with you?" I was like, "Oh, I was fucking watching stuff from YouTube last night about what's going on in Gaza and in Israel," and I think
you're not the only one. When I'm a father, you're a father. I just done a podcast about these amazing guys. For some reason, this is kind of irrelevant, but the podcasts have been really difficult to get past YouTube censorship. Their advertising, it's taken me about 9 days to keep editing this. There's something in the video that they don't like, and when
you're uploading the video and it says processing, that's not processing the digital information if it's uploading. It's using AI technology to I can't remember what I heard, is to transcribe your things that you say into words.
But here's the thing, Martin, right? There was actually a clip in that podcast I did. My producer, Marty, who's just an absolutely excellent man. I'm like, Marty, I wish you could put the father holding his dead baby crying. Not for gore. We're not into all that shit, right? But just so people could freaking understand this is real. That is like you holding your child and they're dead. They're gone. The most important thing in your life, everything you stood for and loved and worked, and they've been killed by bombs, bullets and guns that are sold by some sick, sadistic sociopath. Sweden are big arms suppliers, France are, Britain are, America are, I think Israel are. These are sick people that love war because they watch their stocks go through.
That's what it's about. Their god is money. It's greed. It's like, I'd look at, if I look back to when I was a kid, and I think, the times we're living in now seem so far away, and I'd wonder what kind of modern technology would be there to make our lives better. How much better would life be in the future? And it hasn't really been. It's been there. You find out technology has just been another way of mass surveillance and another way to enslave us and monitor us. And you'd think to yourself that maybe we could have worked something out that we didn't need to keep bombing people and killing people, but technology has just increased to bomb more people and turn more people against each other. And that whole thing that, like, with what happened in 2014, I think a lot of people within Israel are waking up to this, because I think Israel in itself has a lot of ethnic tensions between the Israelis. There's a lot of different groups who are kind of get a better end of the stick than others, and I think they, Likud as a party it's a right wing, ultra conservative party, and I think I know a lot of Israelis who are sound, and some of them have probably been through the IDF and seen their friends being killed, and they've killed other people. And at the end of the day, if you kill someone's children and they've nothing left to lose, then they're going to exact revenge, and that spiral of revenge is never going to end. And if you're planning on revenge, you've got to dig two graves. I can't understand why there has to be a change within the country, where people are like, look, there has to be a better way than this. But like in Northern Ireland, like they managed to sort out Northern Ireland. I mean, it's not great, and there's obviously going to be a history there, but at least people are now living with each other in there's always going to be people with an agenda to progress their own riches or their own consolidate power. But I think it's got to come from people who've just had enough and they just want to live a life where they're not looking over your shoulder the whole time. And that's the same thing with,
you would say people are waking up. Like, honestly, I get a guy.
I can feel people are waking up. I can feel it. The fact that you have Robbie Williams on your podcast talking about this.
Yeah, I get you on my podcast. I get Robbie. I speak to lots of people every day. I spend a lot of time speaking to people, right? And everybody is united in peace. Everybody I speak to understands this agenda that's going on. The problem is we still have a massive swathe of society that believe what they see on the news. They think it's real. They think there's good, you listen to former Navy SEALs talking, they still talk about good guys and bad guys like they think they're in a freaking John Wayne film. Like that's the level, that's the extent of brainwashing that's going on. And so we should point out to people at home who are watching this who might not have seen Hardy Bucks. They're probably thinking like, who's this guy? He's got something to say, but who is he, right? And it's good credit to you, Martin, that your comedy series is one of my most favourite ever. It's up there with Blackadder. It's up there with the young ones. It's absolutely freaking hilarious. And it's unique, mate, on its own. It stands on its own. It's so the dialogue in it. It's just brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant, right? Everything I love. And do you know what? You're such a kind man. You've come on my podcast. We haven't even talked about you and your comedy, which we will. In fact, maybe let's do it now, and we'll come back.
It got a bit heavy there. But basically, Chris, thank you very much for the props.
No, thank you.
We start off as just, me and Chris, the lad who plays the Viper, we were big fans of comedy, and it felt like we were never going to get anywhere within TV. We wanted to work there because that's where we were interested in comedy. And we just started off with a camcorder and me doing a few like ad-libbing, a mixture of different characters I knew in real life. And then people came down from Chris's college. They were like, "Oh, this looks great. We'll help out." And it started snowballing. And then with the advance of the internet and YouTube and whatnot, and it just became like a sensation in Ireland. But we knew that it pissed off the establishment of the elite kind of industry heads in Ireland, because we just came out of nowhere with very little equipment and ad-libbed, and nothing had ever been done like that had caught the essence of what it was like living in small town rural Ireland. And lots of smoking and hanging around and being bored, and it's a little bit like Last of the Summer Wine on hash.
Oh, I'll tell you what, I should let me pin you some practical questions. So for people listening or watching, it's a very funny series. You can find a lot of it on YouTube if you just want to get the essence of it. I'm sure
that's all on you. Someone ripped it all off and stuck it up on YouTube.
Yeah. It's called Hardy Bucks. So Hardy Bucks is like, tough boy or something, right? Like a bit of a geezer.
It's what older people used to talk about, lads around the town who, that lad's a hardy buck. No, he steer clear away from him. He's a hardy buck. Oh, fucking dodgy. It just captures the essence of the show. And it was like an everyman's town, there's a lot of like even people in small towns in England and even like since it's been on Netflix, there's been lads from like Arizona and Texas coming, "Oh, dude, it's exactly like that here." I was over in New Jersey about 2006, and a friend of mine, Pat McHugh, I met him in Ireland. I'd never been to America before. My I think my dream of what America was like was cooler than when I got there. And he was talking to me about New Jersey. He's like, yo, man, we sit there and we blaze a dime bag and we just look at Manhattan. I was like, wow, that sounds like a movie. And I went there and it's just like a load of lads in a flat just smoking a huge blunt. They're all sharing a communal rum and coke while watching Cops on a big plasma TV. And I was like, first thing I said, I was like, that's ironic you're watching Cops while smoking a big blunt. All I got was just, huh. And I realized that this is New Jersey, but it may as well be Tubbercurry and Sligo. Like I could see lads in this group who were exactly like lads I knew from Ireland. I was like, there's no difference. People are all the same across the world, you know.
Hey, I've got one for you, right? When I did skydive, and I've done it twice now. I've done it in New Zealand. I've done it in America.
Good crack, was it?
I think it was my first. Yeah, oh mate, if anyone watching, do the skydiving course. It's the tandem, yeah, great, but actually do this. Get to jump out on your own. It's just brilliant, right?
I'd always be afraid that I'd be like, oh, when do I open? I'm like, oh shit.
Oh no, don't worry about that. Just open if you feel like it. If you're having a bad day, actually it opens itself. So you're quite.
Oh really?
Cool. Yes.
Oh, that's good.
You've got something called the. There's a name for it. The something or other. I'm not going to pretend I can remember, but basically, it's an electronic pair of shears that sit in the back of your parachute. And if for some reason, like say you've hit somebody else and you're unconscious, it knows when you've gone underneath, let's say 2,000 feet, it knows, hey, this guy hasn't pulled his chute yet, and it cuts the string, and your chute will come out and save you, right?
Wow.
Brilliant, isn't it? How we can go from Hardy Bucks to weapons of mass destruction to how you save yourself. This is why podcasting is just so cool. But anyway,
you wouldn't get on mainstream TV because they'd be too worried about getting pissing advertisers off. There's a lot of censorship going on. I mean, Google has really increased the censorship, and they do stay away because, like what they've done with David Icke, for example. I mean, like you can, you know, a lot of people have their opinions about David Icke, and in fairness to him, he's, you know. I'd like to get David Icke on the podcast and just talk about football and just off-topic stuff with him. You know what I mean?
Martin, it's so interesting you say that because me and my producer at the minute, we're trying to do exactly that. We're trying to get over there to the Isle of Wight and just show the man because he's a lovely man. It's that
Did you see Carl at the time when Carl Pilkington went and interviewed him? Brilliant.
Only loosely, one of those things. Like I've been on the fringe. I think I saw it. There's just too much to watch, mate, isn't there?
There is.
And I work. You know, I make no hiding of this. Is I work hard. I get up early and I work very late, and I take time.
There's nothing wrong with that
in the day, you know. But let's just go back to the New Zealand thing. So this Kiwi guy. He's a jump instructor. He gets people strapped to him and jumps out of planes, and he instructs on how to jump out of planes and this sort of thing. And we're there in the aircraft hangar, and we're all chatting away. And it's different when you go to different places in the world. They've all got their different take on things. But if you go to like a Commonwealth country, so we're talking Canada, New Zealand, Australia, America. Sorry, I'm dodgy ground there, aren't they? But do you know what I mean? Places where English people have got a real connection. You see those slight cultural differences, but you get it. You immediately get it, right? And this guy's like, "Hey, let's come back here tonight. Have a blaze in the plane."
Blazing squad.
As if it matters where you smoke weed, like in the plane, but.
Was the plane flying at the time, or was he just going to sit in the plane and have a blaze?
Hey, my mate was a pilot in Florida. I got to know him all. I was staying in a tent on the airport, right? One night, they had one of these storms that kicks off. We're talking hurricane, almost hurricane level, right?
Where was this?
It's a place. I learned to fly in Fort Pierce, which is Florida.
So you can fly?
I have a pilot license.
I'll employ you to be my pilot when I make it big.
So I learned to fly.
Dropping me down to Tesco.
Yeah, I'll run you down there. Yeah. If you pay for the aviation gas, that's fine. Avgas. So I learned to fly in Florida. Then they gave me the plane. They lent me the plane, and me and my mate, Scottish guy, Adam, his name is, we're still in touch now. We flew the plane up to a place called Sebastian, and you're having to listen on the radio. Are the skydivers in the air? Because the last thing you want to do is fly across the airport when they're coming out the sky, because you're going to chop them up, right? So you're listening. Are the skydivers in the air? No, skydivers on the ground. Right, okay, we landed there at Sebastian, and Adam flew the plane, obviously, back. So it's kind of cool. You're a pilot. They've given you a plane. You've just flown it 40 miles north to go skydiving, and I skydived for 3 weeks there. And I'm just saying to everyone, live your dream. Please dream. I think
it's
don't
important.
dream anymore. I think I think they don't dream. I think they think, oh, that's not, I could never do that, therefore I'm not going to. No, dream. I watched Point Break about 10 or 15 years earlier. And I thought,
get him when he comes back in. He's not coming back in. Let me ride the wave, man. Bells Beach, Torquay.
It's a rush like no other, dude. And he just gives him a parachute. And I'm like, I want that. I want to do that.
Funny you say that, because when you were talking about parachutes earlier on, I remember watching, I think it was, I don't know, years ago, it was like movies, it used to be called movies. Then it changed to movies, games, and videos. But it was like something like that. It was on like ITV, and it showed the stuntman who did the scene where he gives him the parachute and he throws him out the plane. When you were telling me about the parachutes, I was instantly reminded of those stuntmen who had to do it with a concealed parachute in their jacket. I don't know why I was thinking about that. So it's funny that you brought Point Break. I haven't seen that for years. I wouldn't mind watching it.
Yes, some people.
Johnny Utah.
Some people snort for it. Some people gamble for it. We jump. He gives him the parachute, and he's never done it before. And when I saw that, I'm like, right, yeah, I'm going to do. I don't know when. It might be in 10 years, might be 15, might be. But I am going to do that one day. And this is how I work my mind, Martin. And it always comes true on me.
Well, the thing is about a dream. It's a GPS. I mean, like, because you can see it in your head, and basically, life will steer. Like, if you have a dream and you believe in it, with that belief, you're going to tell people around you, I'm going to do this, and they're like, you say it was such It's even like when we started the show, I knew that we were going to make it, and I just thought, we're going to make it, and we did, and then we kind of fell out a bit, and then went in different directions. But it's life. But for all intents and purposes, we made it. And even when we got to TV, I was like, I haven't thought for the bit after this. And I was kind of like, when I got there, I was like, what do we do now? So it was always important to have then more dreams backed up. But you're right. Like, if my brother-in-law always taught me the old saying, aim for the stars because you hit the branches. But if you aim for the branches, you won't get off the ground. And I always kind of use that as a way of thinking. But it's important to have dreams. Like, there's people who have given up on their dreams who become cynical, and they will give you the advice of like, you're wasting your time. Like, if I listened to all those people who told me I was wasting my time, I'd probably be a stockbroker now, living in a massive house.
Mr. Sean Atwood, I just wanted to say, actually, you mentioned the Outer Shadows earlier. Sean Atwood, that's Sean Atwood, for people listening, made an amazing documentary. It's called The UK's Hidden Shadows. I think there was some kind of like...
There's a lot of dodgy bastards in the... Like, look at the whole thing with fucking Glitter, man. Or not Glitter, but him and Rolf Harris and Savile and all those guys. That's only the tip of the iceberg, man. There's... These fuckers, they have everything they want. I don't know if it's some sort of weird ceremonial shit they're into, or it's power, but there are... Unfortunately, the world is run by psychopaths and people who are working for dark forces. And when you were talking about like who puts things into videos, and it's kind of like, have I ever witnessed any weird shit? No, thank God. But like, I think there's a lot of, I think it's more of, if you're taken over by a certain way of behavior that isn't in tune with what your natural moral compass should be. And if you're surrounded, like, you know, like look at the likes of Weinstein and all those guys. Like, he wielded, there's a lot of, I think in the entertainment business, there's a lot of cowardice on it. So, like, if you look at what happened with Weinstein, after it was safe enough to then come out against him, everyone, oh, geez, I had no idea this was going on. But yeah, that's terrible. The likes of Meryl Streep and, you know, Oprah Winfrey and all that. Wasn't she down with visiting at St. John of God's place? And, oh, there's a great presence here. And it turns out he was fucking human trafficking, and he was a shot, you know, guy was a maniac. You know, it's like, there's a lot of weird shit going on up at the top of.
Mate, what about Dave Chappelle? That is the one that. Oh, I'm going to talk quick because I know I'll.
But exactly. What was it that he? You know, what was it that he was getting away from there?
Yeah. So for people listening, Dave Chappelle, very funny comedian, absolutely, like this man here that I'm talking to today.
Hey, to be put in the same class as him.
Hey, mate, well, you are. You guys are in a class of your own, and it's absolutely brilliant. Dave had his first series, maybe he had two, and then he got the deal. Like, you walk in a room and there's 50 executives, and they're like, right, sign on the line, and this is what we call the Faustian pact, that you signing your soul to the devil, right? And when you do, you can't go back. I'm not saying it's true. I'm just saying this is what it's referred to as, okay? And he went, fuck that shit. I like doing my little comedy. It was just like the Hardy Bucks. It was cool.
Yeah.
You know, I was famous. It was cool. I don't need the $1 million. And he ran away, literally ran away to South Africa, right?
Yeah.
Never ever heard him talk about, you know, he says he went to Africa. It's like, well, hang on, that's like a fucking continent, dude. That's like saying, you know, I went to England but you actually went to Torquay. It's weird that he never talked. But the point I'm getting to, folks, is he went away from it. In 10 years, he was off the scene. But when he came back, he went on Oprah, and he's like, it was weird. I'm looking around and I'm looking at the people that have signed this $1 million deal, like the Mariah Careys of the world. And hang on, they went from like being this person who was, you know, cool, good, happy, to suddenly being like big tits on the front of every magazine. Suddenly not that person that they, you know, basically we're talking like Illuminati front person, right?
Like Lady Gaga and Ariana Grande.
But here's the thing, right? His biggest grudge was like, you ain't getting me to wear women's clothes.
Yeah. But they did that to Jamie Foxx. They do that to Eddie Murphy. You know, anyone who, like, it seems to be some sort of, I think, like, because one half of me thinks, was there any big weird Faustian pact, as in, like, you know, sign your name in blood kind of stuff? Or is it just, like he said, they want to feel like they own you? So they will humiliate you and make you do humiliating things. And
you got to go on stage at the Oscars and make an idiot of yourself. So when you see these things in the media, that is it Kanye? Kanye's gone on stage and he's trying to grab the award off Taylor. Swift. That is all planned. He's told, you've got to go and make an idiot of yourself. Then you get this thing, you know, hey, radio.
Something happened with Kanye West there a while back, didn't he? He was talking about Jay-Z. He was caught, and he was saying, they got killers, man. And then he was taken away. The men with the white coats and butterfly nets came after him.
Yeah. And then who's he best buddies with? Donald Trump. I'm not saying anything now. I don't get it.
You know what I really love? I really love the work of Kanye. Kanye is beautiful. His wife Kim, she's beautiful, terrific lady, terrific. They came here to the Trump Tower, and you know, I said, "I'll keep you safe, Kanye. You know, just give me a pair of your shoes there, and we bring you down to the golf club."
Yeah, I like Kanye. Kanye's good. He's like really, really very. Like, he's terrific.
He's hip with all the youngsters.
Anyway, let me get back to my point, right?
Sorry, mate, yeah.
But no. This is just so I don't forget. Dave Chappelle, his big thing is, you ain't going to dress me in women's clothes.
A fair play to him.
For people listening, go, what, Chris, what the fuck are you going on about? It's
he talks about it.
Google it. They make every black celebrity at some point in their career dress as a woman.
Oh, loads of people. Fucking Jamie Foxx, Eddie Murphy.
Jamie Foxx, Eddie. Yeah.
The big lad who got touched up in the Me Too. What's his name? He's in Expendables. Oh, he's a big, massive, like ex-NFL player, and he got touched. No, not The Rock. But yeah, you know, and then you got Saturday Night Live, man. It's just so weird because there's a really weird kind of. There's a weird kind of almost like pro-degeneracy kind of shit coming out of Hollywood, where, you know, it's like it's just a bit. Like Saturday Night Live, there's some very funny people in Saturday Night Live, but it feels like whoever the owner of it is a bit connected into like the Clinton side of things and whatnot. I mean, there's a kind of like again, comedy is a great method of getting propaganda and that kind of thing. But I think the main thing at the moment, where all that weird narrative and, you know, just a lot of this weird public conditioning is in advertisements, and advertising as an industry is just. Can
I, Martin? Sorry,
full of shysters.
I'm sorry to talk over.
Sorry, mate. Yeah, it's going off on another one.
Let's get this straight. It's my podcast. I'm the fucking best. When I speak, you're just a guest, all right?
Yeah.
Just so we look, so we know where we are.
That's the best way of doing it, actually.
All it is, I don't want to lose our audience on what I was trying to say. And what I was trying to say is, so Dave Chappelle comes back with his $1 million deal. So he's obviously signed it, right?
Wasn't it $60 million?
Oh, yeah. No, it's 50 million. Yeah, 50 million, right? And he openly said, you can be like a nobody in the street, or you can be the world's most famous comedian on $50 million a year. And I went for that one. But here is the thing. He rocked up on this chat show. You can find this online. I'm not going to pretend it was one of these kind of late night show. You know, it wasn't the James Corden dude. But anyway, he rocked up on one. And what is he wearing? He's wearing. People are going to go, no, it was a T-shirt. No, it wasn't. It was a T-shirt that came down to his knees. You can see this online, right? This is a guy would never wear women's clothes. And yet he rocks up on this thing. He's got this shirt that is so ridiculously long. It's like the dress that your missus wears in the summer.
Or a nightie.
I'm not kidding. It clearly, symbolically, was women's clothes. And there he is. Dave, if you're listening, nothing personal, mate, but, you know, come on a podcast and explain that one, baby, because...
He probably would.
You know. Yeah, and I'm... Martin, with everything I say, I'm not accusing. I'm trying to freaking understand, because I've got a family. Dave got to... When I'm dead, my boy's got to live on.
Mm.
And I want to have done my best for him, you know. I want to say, right, son, I've tried, you know. This is how, like, I think it is. I think it's definitely order out of chaos, you know. Isn't that written on the back of the bottom of the dollar bill? Order ab chaos. It means order out of chaos.
Yeah.
It's like an ancient Masonic sort of term. And this is all I'm doing. I'm
But there's a lot of that stuff, you know, going on. I mean, with secret societies, and, you know, a lot of people. When I bring this up, a lot of people say to me, "Oh, yeah, it's just a boys' club, you know, for rich people." It's like, well, I mean, why is it so? It's interesting because if you look at I seen something the other day which had like Gmail was the apron, and it's a lot of weird stuff like Google is like the king sign. It's like the Google Chrome. It's like it's a 666. I remember watching the David Icke video where he's talking about like it goes into like way off. Again, I'll give everything a listen, and it's because the thing, like, I've come to the stage where we can't really be sure what the hell's going on in reality, and I kind of feel like reality it feels like it's changing and getting it's not like the same as it used to be when we were younger, and it feels like there's no one really has a solid grasp on anything anymore, and it feels like the more we look into things, the more we realize we don't understand. And there's a lot of symbolism.
Does it sound grandiose, mate, if I say I think I do understand now, as far as you're ever going to?
Mm-hmm. No, it doesn't. I mean, and sometimes I feel like I've got a complete handle on it, and then something else will come along, and I'm like, I don't know, and then you start doubting yourself. But like, I find sometimes it's when you have a good idea of what it is you're talking about, and then you'll meet someone who's like a complete normie who doesn't look into any of this, and then you start feeling like.
Hey, let's make it clear, they are becoming these normal Normans that believe what they read in the Sun, and let's go to war because there's loads of bad guys out there. They're becoming a minority. Don't forget that, people listening. Stick with your beliefs.
Yeah, and just have your talking points ready to go. And instead of the burden of proof being on us, maybe the burden of proof should be on them. Like, we'll prove, and then just because I think we've looked into this long enough. The thing is, there will be some shit thrown in to muddy the water, but you have to use your discernment and judgment, and then figure out, is this some sort of psyop to get people off the track? Which there's an awful lot of that going on, but there's an awful lot of connecting dots. Like I had a conversation with a friend of mine last week, and he's like, "Oh, I just can't understand it. You have these numbers, and it's just not adding up." And I said, "Well, yeah, because the piece I've just said to you that you laughed at me for, if you throw that piece into the puzzle, it starts making perfect sense."
Yeah, of course.
It doesn't. I think, again, to be able to entertain these, it's like comforting lies versus unpleasant truths. You're going to go to most people, if they're not made of the tough stuff, they're just going to go for the comforting lies. But if you're prepared to just look at that world, when you step out of the veneered, polished narrative that we're all supposed to follow, it's a lonely place, and it's a scary place, and it's easy to become black-pilled, but I think that people, like we spoke about this on Friday, that I think it takes 5% of the world's population to wake up, and then you'll reach a critical mass. And at the moment, I think the censorship that we're seeing everywhere, and the mainstream media pushing as much as they can against anyone who goes against that narrative, is an indication of how they've got to get a lid on this as soon as they can, because the thing that's backfired about them is people who would never have had the time to look at these theories or beliefs are now going, hang on a minute, this makes sense. And why the fuck am I working 6 days a week to pay 65% of tax to fund military campaigns to steal resources from poorer people around the world?
To be indebted for life for the roof over my head, and to pay for life the student loan that I took out. Like, what kind of elders in a tribe charge the young warriors, male or female, for their education? That is fucking weird, and nobody questions it.
Ukraine, the Prime Minister of Ukraine now is a comedian. So basically it took a comedian to, because comedians by and large are observant, good ones. They observe the world around them, and they do it with a open and non-critical way. They just observe, and they express it. So the people of Ukraine were like, you know what, we're sick of these politicians. This dude, speaks sense, and he's funny. So he's going to be, it gets to the stage where, like, the comedians are acting like politicians, and the politicians are comedians. I don't know. The world is getting, that's what I was saying about the reality of the world. It's fucking mental.
We've been here, I don't know, I'm not really good with dates and timings and stuff, but I do know, like, as Homo sapien or whatever it is we are, that's been like 100,000 years. Who knows? Probably longer. But we also got to remember, we've evolved from like some single cell organism or whatever it was in the swamp. So we've probably been here for a few million, if not way. And
there's nothing new under the sun.
Well, the thing is, we survived. We've come through famine, storms, drought, ice ages. our DNA
has gone all the way back.
Pretty freaking good. But we get to 2020 and Bill Gates tells us we're fucked. We're all going to die if we don't go with this program.
And you have the birth strikers as well. Like I'm not having children because of the environment. And you're like, so all those people for thousands of years, all the way back through everything that's happened, you're just going to decide to arbitrarily go, yeah, I'm going to extinguish that torch of life with me because I've fallen for some sort of propaganda bollocks. You know, it's like, just disconnect from the fucking mainstream bullshit.
But we're waking up, mate. People like us, you know, we woke, I don't know what the bloody term is, but we're not the minority anymore. It's the Great Awakening. We are becoming the majority. Even people that don't kind of get it,
they know something's not right.
They know something's not right, and it's okay now to question things and to learn, you know.
Well, look at the US though, Chris. I mean, for example, look at the opioid crisis. I mean, there are like, and all these big companies have outsourced all of the labor for profit overseas and destroyed the workforce. And in England as well. Look around England. Like, you're talking about people just have no purpose anymore. I mean, a lot of people don't. A lot of people who would have been working in like mines in let's say Barnsley or somewhere in Sheffield, those jobs are gone. And the, you know, the steel factories, like all the construction jobs, there's not enough work anymore in Europe because it's all gone overseas for profits for big companies. So people are just sitting around going, what am I supposed to do in my life?
People, I'm talking about young men. Let's use the example of young men. They have no roots to manhood anymore.
No, they don't
follow their dad into the farmer's field or into the factory or into the, you know, the steel works or the blacksmiths or all that, you know, unless now you get a degree, which isn't really anything to shout home about. It's basically it's not like the old days when we went to uni, you had to be a bit brainy and a bit clever. No, it's just a way to scam you out of money, paying off a student debt for 10 years and reduce the unemployment statistics. So, yeah, if you ain't got what it takes to go to uni because, you know, you're just a grassroots boy or what we used to call working class, you're fucked. You're unemployed. There's no, you know, unless you want to sit in a call center for a 12-hour day,
making shit money.
Making £4.80 an hour or whatever. I'm a bit out of touch with all that stuff now.
Yeah, but like the average wage nowadays, like, so let's say, you haven't gone to college, you haven't got your degree, so you're working in hospitality or you're working in construction. The amount of work and effort that you have to put in, and then like about 30 years ago, one parent could raise a family of 5, send them all off to school. They'd all had plenty to eat. They had a car. They had a house. Nowadays, like on those kind of wages, how the hell are you even supposed to? Like Ireland, for example, has, and even Sweden. Like if you want to buy a regular apartment here, you're talking about in Stockholm. You're talking about like 300 grand.
Yeah,
that's not even a big apartment, and that's an apartment. And it's just all property has been way overinflated, and there's going to be a huge property bust coming again. Like this whole thing was set up, and I've often said that this whole pandemic event was a catalyst to a veil of plausible deniability from big finance again. These recessions come every 12 years on average.
Oh my God, it's the same with the wars, mate. I've worked it out with the wars. What they do, they leave a 20-year gap, and do you know why? It's so the old bastards like I was going to say me and you, but you're young and handsome. I'm just an old, right? But it's so people like me, we become irrelevant.
Yeah.
And the next young people go, yeah, war, pick up a gun, man, they're bad guys. Yeah. And they believe all the bullshit again. They leave at that strategic gap. So people like me, our stories become irrelevant. All the knowledge we gain by being in combat becomes irrelevant. And they buy the next lot of propaganda, mate. Cocaine, why is that so huge at the minute?
It's fucking everywhere again.
Well, no, what does cocaine do? It feeds your ego, doesn't it? It's an ego drug. It makes you feel like the big man or the cool, classy woman, right? Why do people need to feel that? Well, just what you said, mate. They're not happy working in the call center. It's just not cool.
It's another distraction.
Saturday
Same thing with
night,
booze as well. Like if booze was any good, it'd be illegal.
Yeah.
And that's coming from a man who enjoys a few pints.
Yeah.
But weed is, obviously, I think weed has been over synthesized and just genetically modified to be mental, like super skunk and that kind of stuff. But weed, as it grew in naturally, it's probably quite mellow and had a lot of medicinal.
Yeah, well,
properties.
it was a herb, wasn't it? It was a herb.
Yeah.
I'm not advocating any drug. I know people say, yeah, I think weed does well when you eat it because it's alkaline. It's very earthy when you taste weed, and this is why I think when people go, yeah, weed is good for, yeah, if you eat it, if you smoke it, it's a carcinogenic. You're taking carbon into the most delicate part of your body. Don't try and claim, it might chill you out. It might, if you got Alzheimer's or something or anxiety, I get that there might be some benefit smoking, but no, it's the fact that at grassroots, if you eat weed, I'm sure it's really alkalizing on your body, and that alkaline is never going to be a bad thing.
Which is good for the liver as well.
But I would say to anyone, I really don't think human beings need to take any poisons into their body to do anything. I'm not saying that I don't or I never do. I'm a never.
No, it's a good point because it is a toxin at the end of the day. Like
it's a toxin.
Mushrooms as
plant.
well.
It's a plant designed to say, don't fucking eat me or I'm going to make you feel fucked, mate. And you are never going to eat me again because your head is going to go cuckoo. You're going to spin out. You're going to have the most paranoid episode you ever imagined. And you'll go, right, I ain't eating that plant again. that spiky fucker, fuck you. But
we'll be eating peyote again.
Mate, let's get back. I really appreciate Martin, Eddie, that you're such a good man to talk about this stuff, But I am also aware that you're on my podcast and you're also the star in one of the best ever comedies, and I love it. I really learned a lot about comedy by watching the Joe Rogan show.
Yeah,
the way he talks about comedy is it draws you in. It draws you in.
Yeah, fair play to him. But what do you think about him going to Spotify? It's a lot of money,
does it, mate? They're all platforms owned by the ruling elite. It's never going to be. It's never going to be. It's never like going to be in our interest, is it? Nice bit, just lovely bit of paper. This, isn't it? It's kind of like rectangular.
Yeah, it's solid.
Lovely. It's white. I like the white. The whiteness of it is really. It's really.
You've just colour balanced the camera.
I don't want to go on his podcast or anything like that, But mate.
You'll get there. You'll get there. No, he's. I was amazed that Eddie Bravo came on my podcast as well. That was one of those moments where I was like, "Wow, I got Eddie Bravo on," and he was good crack to talk to. But I asked him could he use this Squadcast that I use for, but Zoom is way better. I'm paying £20 a month for the Squadcast thing. It's like Zoom gives you an audio file and a video file. It's like I think I might do all my podcasts on Zoom from now on. But so the quality was pretty bad because I was like, right, you've only got a limited amount of time to get this in the bag with Eddie Bravo. So I had to like record the phone and take a Zoom recorder and just stick them beside the computer as it was, as loud as it could be. And then just trying to sync the two audio files up in Logic afterwards.
Oh, mate.
Better off with Zoom.
And can I just clarify? No, I don't care if I'm on the Joe Rogan.
But you probably will one day. I mean, like your own story is a fantastic story as well. I mean, it must have been mental over in Hong Kong when you were working for Triads.
But it's weird, isn't it? It's hot. To me, it's just my story, mate. I've just all I've ever did is live my life. That's it. There's nothing special about it. Just live my life. Has it been mental? Well, yeah, because I wanted a mental life. I wanted to throw myself out of airplanes. The whole drug thing, when I look back, is I was obviously trying to find who I was and what I was about and why did I have these questions in my head? And again, that comes from a challenging childhood. But no, I've just lived my life.
How old were you then? You were 23 at the time?
I was 25, mate. About 26 by the time I worked for the 14K.
It was mad when you were saying that when you came back to the airport, your dad didn't even recognise you. I remember I was in a court case a couple of years ago for fighting bouncers. The whole thing was fucking bullshit, man. It was just, at the end of the day, it was a scrap. But like it was a hell of an upheaval in my life. It was just, you'd be sitting there at night going, oh God, what if I say this, if I'm asked this question? And I made a statement, probably still pissed. And I remember as I was doing the statement, there was one of the police was a fan of the show. And I remember when I was coming out, it was a scrap with some bouncers, right? And when I was going into the station, one of the guards was like, oh yeah, we got a celebrity in the house. And I was like, oh fuck. But like during the statement, they were asking me, one of these guys just didn't like me and he wanted to do me. You know, that's just like, but the other guy was sound. And he was like, how many measurements of alcohol were in the drink? And I said, I'm not sure. A Mr. Dan Riley of Longford administrated the drink. I don't know how many measurements were in it. And I turned to the man on the left during questioning, all on record, and I went, but they were well laced. And he was like, but the thing is, it was an honest, you know, usually, I suppose looking back, if anyone is ever arrested, I would say, don't say anything until your lawyer arrives. But like, if you're absolutely smashed at the time, you're like, fuck the lawyers. But that whole thing was really stressful. But I would turn it over and over in my head, and it was just like a weight on my shoulders for like a year and a half. But I remember I was surfing and off the coast of Sligo. It was just, I remember it just being tossed around by a huge wave that just rolled me over, and I came up on the other side of this wave, and I just seen like the sun was starting to set over the mountains, and I just thought to myself, where I am now, I'm at one. It sounds really cheesy to say, but I was at one with Mother Nature and the elements. And I realized that the rule of man is passing. Like this place I'm afraid of, because but at the end of the day, I was thinking like, what right do they have really? The law is written by some guys who came together and wrote a constitution. But it's like, there was a great serenity in that time where I just looked at the timelessness of the mountains and the ocean and the sun. I just thought like, the law of nature doesn't apply, or the law of man doesn't apply to nature. You know, it's funny because, you know, you grow up and it's, you know, because I had this, like I did a live stream. If you don't mind me giving my own channel a plug, I've been trying to grow it for years. I had 800 subscribers taken off me one day because I suggested that Ellen had the same interior decorator as Epstein.
Really? Well, how did you lose subscribers?
I don't know, man.
They just unsubscribed from you?
No, it was like 800. Maybe there were bot accounts. I don't know, but there was. I had my mate Jono on, who's a real juicy character, and he was going, "Yeah, hey, check out Ellen. Yeah, the show looks like it's the same as Epstein's Island." And I was looking, I was like, "Whoa!" And there's a lot of other mad shit we were talking about. And next day, because I was really working hard to try and get it past 3,000 subscribers, and I've had this channel for 5 years and just couldn't get it past the subscribe. Like, and I was like, yes, I'm going to get past 3,000. I checked the subscriber count. It was like down to 2,300. It was like, yeah, over 700 subscribers. It's gone in one night. But then apparently there's a lot of bot accounts, because you might have seen this when you were starting off. It was like, loved it. Can we be friends? And all this stuff. Was like,
oh, dude. Yeah, there was an internet thing going around saying when you get that thing in your comment section, dude, can we be friends? Love your channel. And it's clearly, and weird thing is when you click on that person, they've got hundreds of thousands
of views.
No, all it is, they're farming.
Yeah.
They put that, the computer puts that comment on every video on YouTube, and people that are naive, that have just got their channel, go, oh, I got a friend. Yeah, I'll like you. And what they do then what they do then is they sell that channel to, let's say, Kanye, who changes the URL from www.youtube.com XYZ #/ fucking this, fuck that. Change it to youtube.com Kanye West. And that channel that's got now 1 million subscribers on it who don't really know why they subscribe and now belong to, it's now, Kanye, if you're listening, nothing personal, mate. I'm using you as an example. If your lawyers want to contact my lawyers, I don't fucking have any, mate. Sorry, so you're pretty fucked.
Represent yourself.
I got a tenner. I'll give you a tenner, Kanye.
Yeah, so it's Maloney's Digest, as you know. Sorry. Well, sometimes I stream like me playing like Resident Evil 2 and, you know, like, or like Modern Warfare and that kind of thing. But I put the Hardy Books podcast, I share to there. But now I'm starting to do, because a couple of subscribers were saying, can you do interviews that we can see? And I was like, well, yeah. I'm just, again, I'm not that technical, and you kind of, you learn as you go. When we started off with Hardy Books, for example, you put a video up and you get loads of views. Obviously, it was hilarious as well. But something changed about 4 or 5 years ago where it became very algorithm heavy, and I just haven't really, you know, I haven't bothered really putting hashtags in or any of that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And sometimes you look at these, you know, you've got, you know, your son's 5. I got a son who's 3.5 now, and he was going through an awful lot of a phase of watching this mindless shite. You've probably seen it yourself. It's just like Spider-Man characters, just, and all these weird like shapes and cars going into, like sports cars going into like pits of footballs that go everywhere, and it's like and it's just like nursery rhymes such as the Muffin Man, and I'm looking at the views, it's like 25 million views, and you're just like, how the hell are these videos getting all these hits?
And
you think about that in AdSense, how much they get. You're talking about 50 grand per video at that.
That's what I meant to say. YouTube is about the advertising. That's their thing, is they want the people that pay. That is why they set up in this certain way. And you've got to follow that. That's it. It's not a free platform. It's not about to talk about what the fuck you want. You have.
It's a publisher. It's not a platform. It's a publisher, and that's why there's a lot of this with this net neutrality talk, and people are saying, like, you know, you got Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, which are essentially the public square, but they're, you know, but again, and here's the other thing with net neutrality and the freedom of information. If you disagree with let's say somebody's anti-mainstream narrative, right, then debate them. I mean, have a place where if what someone believes in doesn't hold up, it's got holes in it, and it's easily, you know, picked apart, then challenge them. Have the information out there. Let people decide what it is they want to believe or what they don't want to believe. But that's not happening. Like David Icke, for example, being taken off YouTube, what that has done is just validated him completely. It's like, right, we Alex Jones has taken, like, Alex Jones, I think he was bought and sold a long time ago. I mean, Alex Jones went from like, where we've just gone into Bohemian Grove and exposed all these Illuminati elites. And next thing it's like, Trump this, Trump, I want to pray for Netanyahu, that George Soros, he's safe from Soros. I'm like, what the fuck's going on with Jones, man? Sorry, anytime I do a Jones impression, it knackers me vocal cords.
He was, yeah. Hey, mate, you're good at your impressions. I'm trying to be diplomatic here without rocking the fucking apple tree or whatever. I make my own.
I hear you.
I'm a bit thick. But no, he started talking out about certain subjects. And I think, as an independent observer, he was quite right to do so, because the official narrative, you know, I'm ex-military. I know what guns do. I know how you operate a weapon. I know the effect it has when you shoot, let's say, somebody in the head. The media is telling us this happened with this guy. That I'm just going to tell you, sorry, it don't work like it just doesn't work like that. And I think Alex had every right to question. Again, I'm not even going to say the narrative, but certain narratives, they did not add up. They were absolutely bizarrely weird. Yeah. Something was going on, right? And
here's the thing as well, Chris. What's wrong with asking those questions if it's in public interest? again, what's wrong with asking questions? Like I said, you know, it's like if you look at Podesta, for example, it's like, yeah, it was debunked. It's like, no, it wasn't. Those fucking, I mean, like, WikiLeaks is never wrong. That's the one thing. And actually, I have to say, the fucking treatment of Assange, man, that's crazy. Like, what's going on with him?
I've seen his mum on fucking Facebook the other day or something, like begging, like, send my son bloody. He's got nothing. You know, sign a petition, get my son a radio.
Yeah, God knows what they're doing to him inside. And at the end of the day, you can say what you want about him as an individual, you know, but like what he did, if it wasn't for him, a lot of shit would have gone under the radar. No one would have known about. Yeah, I think he was. I think the thing is with Jones is he sensationalized things for you know. I remember listening to it like fucking hell, man. That was like about 6 years ago during that whole court case thing. You know, I was depressed, to be quite honest with you. You know, it was all like front pages and the way they made out like it said Martin Maloney attacks 3 men in pub. Didn't. Like, that's not how it went out. None of the details were. It was a sensational headline to sell papers. But I was depressed, and I started watching a lot of Alex Jones stuff. And he's like, he has some guy on. He's like, oh my God, Alex, it's going to be the October surprise. I know something's happening. I was watching. He's going, what's going to happen? You know, and it shitted me up, and nothing happened. And there was an awful lot of him kind of like stoking up fear and like saying that Y2K is going. They got like Hind D's or, you know, the nuclear launch codes, or, you know, this was back at the time of the millennium started, and just whipping people up into a panic. And it's, you know, you just want someone who just tells you the fucking they're as true as.
Mate, it's fucking sensationalism. The whole Joe Rogan thing, right? For people listening that aren't like aware, I started listening to Joe Rogan. We're talking about 3 years ago now, maybe 4, maybe might be long. And the reason I did is he was a massive conspiracy guy. I don't mean nutcase. I mean, he just nailed it. He's like, been to the moon? Like, fucking really? You're like, dudes, are you that fucking stupid? You gonna believe that they you know, this was like his thing.
Yeah, and then he stopped that. Because.
And then suddenly, in one day, literally, it was, I'm not a. He says exactly the same thing as the oh God, there's another guy that won't speak about 9/11. Who's the very famous Jewish scholar? I'm only
Noam Chomsky.
Chomsky, yes. Sorry. It's not like I don't know him. It's my. Yeah. I'm fucked from probably doing too many drugs over the years. Yeah. So Norm. Right, you asked about 9/11, mate. He knows what you can talk. You can talk about Vietnam and what a scam that was.
And this thing is, whose dad was the admiral of the ship in the Bay of Tonkin. See, I'm wearing a Doors t-shirt. But Jim Morrison's dad was the admiral in the Bay of Tonkin invasion.
There you go. Right.
Then again, that's the whole Laurel Canyon. You know, Frank Zappa, Joan Baez. There was a lot of, you know, military families who I mean, that's the other thing I was going to bring up as well, was the 60s and how that was, you know, the 60s was Tavistock, and you know, could have been elements of Fort Detrick, which is where apparently a lot of MK Ultra experiments went on. You know, that acid came out. My sister talks about this a lot with me, how they basically gave all this unlimited freedom all of a sudden to people that at the end of it they were begging for some sort of law and order. There's a video of like the explosions going off in WT7. You know, there's you actually see the columns going bang 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 up each side, and you know, you see Silverstein saying, "Oh yeah, we told them to pull it." How the fuck do you pull a building, right? That is.
How do you tell the fire brigade you're not a member of the fire brigade? You don't. The fire brigade don't pull buildings down. What? That was so weird.
But how long does it take to rig a? I mean, look, this is just an observation. You know, I'm just, you know, people might be watching this going, "Oh, these guys are full blown conspiracy." I'm like, fuck, just look at it. I mean, like, right? And it's just common sense. How long does it take to, right? Think of this, right? You've had two of the biggest skyscrapers in the world have just fallen down, right? All that, like the way I watched it live happening on TV. And I remember I was 18 and I was doing a roof in my sister's house, just fucking nailing plasterboards onto the ceiling. And next thing the radio was like, oh, a plane has just hit the Twin Towers. And I was like, and I thought it was like a Cessna or something. I didn't think it would be a big deal. Go down there and watch the TV and it's like fucking hole in one of them. I watched that. I mean, this was one of the biggest mass televised trauma events the world has ever seen. I mean, I'd never even been to America, but for me, I felt like it was a personal hole was left in me for the fact it was so iconic. It was in all these films, and you know, it was all of these 1980s movies, Trading Places, Ghostbusters, fucking everything. You know, everything had the towers in it, and then all of a sudden they're gone.
I had dinner on top of there twice. Windows of the World was the restaurant on top of the World Trade Center. I had the two most memorable meals of my life on top of there.
My sister was up there pregnant the week before.
I didn't do that. That was a different time to me. Actually, no, I might have met her in the elevator. I did have a funny 5 minutes there.
But she was up there on the roof a week earlier, right? As was my niece. But like, yeah, I was watching this on TV, and next thing, bang, another plane hits. I was like, what the fuck? You know, and then it was just like, there's no more work today. And then it was all day, all night, just watching the rest of this footage. And then the first one falls, and you're like, what the fuck? And then you're like, you're watching it as a spectacle. And I remember the first thing I thought in my head was like, wow, will the other one fall as well? And you don't realize that there are people in there. You know, it's just, you can't. And next thing the other one did, and I was like, what the hell have I just witnessed here? It was it was a mass trauma around the world. And then, right, so this is what I was saying. So basically, these two, then you're thinking, what other buildings are going to fall? So Silverstein, who owned the buildings, has the time to just go, right, lads, will you do me a favor? Will you go in there and then just rig up the building in the next hour or two so the whole thing just comes down? To rig a building for explosives or for a detonation takes weeks. It takes weeks, if not months, to successfully do it so it falls into its own imprint like that, or its own footprint.
So for Martin, just for people listening, so we had the Twin Towers have come down, right?
Mm-hmm.
Got a building, it's called the Salomon Building, aka Building 7. It's there. It's on the New York skyline. The BBC are doing their report going, we've just had reports the Salomon Building has come down. It's like, love, that's the one behind you. You've clearly, you're reading from a script and you've jumped the gun. It hasn't collapsed yet. It's that building behind you, right? Now, here's the thing. So the BBC broadcast that this building's collapsed 40 minutes before it did. And you got to remember, no buildings have ever collapsed from fire in history. You know, steel reinforced buildings never ever collapsed from fire in history. So it's impossible to go, oh, it's on fire, it might collapse. No, it's never happened. So you can't say, oh, it's collapsed. Oh, no. Oh, yeah. So
sure. Didn't the guy from, is it NIST or NIST?
NIST, yeah.
He came out and he said that he did a computer model and said it's impossible. I mean, I remember watching the Channel 4 documentary. Oh, sorry for cutting you off there, Chris, but I watched the Channel 4 documentary about it where they said, oh, basically you had on the floor, you had everything was fireproofed, but it wasn't fireproofed successfully enough, and the heat melted it put stress on the supporting joist, and then it pancaked.
I need to go and like punch a bear, so I'm just going to pause the video for our friends at home. But no, NIST came out. NIST is part of the establishment, and came out and went, yeah, a building just fell out of the sky for absolutely no reason whatsoever, right? And they built this model to explain how a building collapse never ever happened before in history, physically from a scientific point of view impossible, but of course they've got to explain like why a building has just come out of the sky, right? It was the truth for 9/11 people is it sorry, friends at home, but is it the engineers for 9/11? You know, these architects and engineers for 9/11 truth. They funded an independent study with the University of Fairbanks, Alaska. And it's really funny to watch the professor who did the study, because he's just like, you never guess what we found. They're lying. It's you know, he's like an old school guy, and he like can't believe that this has been on the news, because it's spun the guy's melon, right? He's having to face the facts that, like, the media just blatantly lying. NIST, National Institute of Science and Technology, I think it is, they've just blatantly lied on mainstream to say this building collapsed from a fire, when in actual fact that's scientifically impossible. And he's done his model through, you know, proper scientific theory, whatever the right terminology is. And he's gone, no, this building has been, you know, it had to have been. I'm not going to try and preempt try and put across what their study found, because it's online. You can go and see it. But the guy's gobsmacked, because no, they're lying. And he says it's on video. He's like, what NIST said is not true. This building did not collapse from a fire.
In case you're wondering what's going on, it's the dog.
Hardy Bugs, come on, let's talk about that, because okay,
yeah.
Can I ping you some questions, Martin?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Right. There was an awful lot of what you'd call extras in that production. Mm-hmm. Where did they come from?
Just locals from the town, family members and friends. So, yeah, I mean, do you know what the brilliant thing is as well, Chris? And this is what I think pissed off the establishment, was a whole load of complete amateurs who've never been in front of a camera before got together and put in solid performances and captured the heart of the nation. You know, it will always be a divisive topic, but that was it. It was just like, you get all these guys who are like, yes, I went to Stanislavski School of Acting, and I studied the Meisner technique, and I pretended to crawl out of my own belly button and cried for hours in front of my mum. You know, and it's like, but really it's like, here's the words, play yourself. You know, and that was it. And because there was so much improvising as well, it was like, okay, these are the beats you got to hit. Just be yourself. And I mean, most of the people we asked were characters anyway. There were people who we knew, these people are absolute legends, so they're going to be able to pull it off anyway. And everyone took to it like a duck to water. They were, you know, and we were always really open-minded about who we had in. Like, people like, oh, can I come down and be in it? And like, yeah, sure, we'll fit you in somewhere. It wasn't like this elite thing of like, we're not gonna. We were always really accessible as individuals. We were never. In some ways, that might have gone against us, because you know, the whole media game, and it's like the stock market. It's like, what is your market value? And you know, we never made ourselves exclusive and, you know, unapproachable. You know, it's like the way they hide diamonds in warehouses to put the price up. We were just like, nah, we'll come on your show, we'll do this, we'll hang out, yeah, we'll go for beers with you. You know, we never played into that lofty bollocks, you know, and being all aloof. And I think a lot of like you know, big name actors and, you know, producers, casting directors, whatnot, they probably felt like, and the stuff we were coming out with was just an honest, like, the shit that happens in my town alone, right? There was a lot of it you couldn't put in because it was just so mental. So when people up in Dublin like, oh my God, what are these people doing? They're making all these hoardy books. I don't know what they're about. They're mad bastards. And it was very close to the knuckle and very true. There's another really great comedian in Ireland called Dave McSavage. I remember meeting Dave McSavage, and his stuff was brilliant. And I met him once in Galway, and he goes, oh yeah, you guys are the Hardy books. Oh God, you guys are fantastic. I mean, you really do hold a mirror to society. Just fucking crank it up to 11. And that was what we did. because, you know, everything that came out of Ireland was just, it was all Dublin centric. And we got sick of looking at this. And there was like a whole clique of comedians and actors who were just doing the same thing, same people, same shows, same format. And we were just, we thought, if we want to see something different, we have to be the change we want to see. And it resonated with everybody because it felt like a whole generation of people were like, the amount of people who came up to me afterwards, Chris, and were like, oh, I wish we'd done that. You know, if only we'd thought of doing that. It's exactly what we were thinking of doing. And fortunate for us, we did it. And it was a really magical time. It was just YouTube, it was kind of kicking off, and Facebook, people started getting on Facebook, and it was before it got cluttered. And it was just a real sweet spot where people there wasn't as much content. It wasn't saturated as like it is today, and just took off and it went massive. I mean, it moved so fast that I was like, wow, is it that easy? It was almost like a beginner's luck. And then,
so the king of the town, was that what it was?
King of the town.
Right. So I'm
KOTT.
From my outside perspective, this is like something that's obviously gone on in Ireland, that you have king of the town and it's a very macho drink.
But you don't even have that. It was just because the thing is about Castletown, right? Castletown it's a fictional place. So it was almost like kind of supernatural weird shit was going on. You know, it was always like further back in time than everywhere else, even though it was, you know, it was just super backwards. And that was like the humor of it, was just how ad hoc and lo-fi everything was. And they were still listening to like 90s dance music as if it had just come out. And it was based on some characters you'd see floating about. But
so the king of the town that's not in Ireland, no?
No, it's just some like event that was local to Castletown.
Okay, because
I'm sure they have like weird shit going on in small towns where that happens.
I was saying to my girlfriend, have they like hijacked this event because it was all in play? You know, there's a fairground thing going on. There was all these rides and throw the ball at the coconut, kind of, you know, coconut shy, and all. And I thought, like, that's big organising to do that for a movie. You know, the logistics were huge, and yet I'm there's a little voice in my head going, no, these guys have just created all this.
Well, you know, the nice thing is as well, Chris, the fact that people had such good time for us. You know, we'd ring up and say, oh, we need a Ferris or like a merry-go-round, and you know, there's local lads who, you know, they bung them a few quid and they were just made up to be in it, like burger vans and bouncy castles, and the props department were really good. And, you know, from a production point of view, my brother-in-law Mike was, you know, he was fantastic. So yeah, we had a lot of goodwill from the town, and it was great for the town as well, because it's post-recession and people were emigrating and business was bad, and it really did. Anytime we have a series going on at home, really brings life and fun to the town, and you can actually see, like, the next day after a shooting is finished and everyone's gone again, it's like a real kind of anti-climax. Everything goes back, but when we're filming, it's brilliant crack. You know, we're all having pints after shooting and playing guitar and jamming it up, and it's a magical time. And then for me personally, my favorite of everything is the third series. That was like when we kind of had a few years to kind of sit back, and I don't know why we don't have one every year, but it's just like the TV company was hit hard by the recession, and it's competing against the internet. And yeah, it was cool that we got onto Netflix as well. That was
how was it? Like, you filmed in like a library, the doctor's surgery, a police station.
Oh yeah, they
just ask them.
Just ask them, yeah. See, it's funny, like I say, if you just ask people, then they'll be like, all right, fair enough. Yeah, it's one or two things is going to happen if you ask. They're either going to say yes or no. So it's like it's a 50-50 chance of something happening. And man, everyone was so accommodating. They were like, yeah. And it was like, can I be in it as well? I was like, yeah, jump in the background. Or we give you a couple of lines here and there to say. And man, it was a magical time when it all started off. It was like it got to the stage where the stuff we were doing was so funny that we got used to it. And at the time, we're like, is this funny? And then you look back later on, and it's like, yeah, it was funny, but you just get so used to it that it's like, next scene, Yeah, man, I do miss it. Like, hopefully we get another run of it.
Whose was the house, the bungalow, where you and Buzz lived?
That's Chris, who plays the Vipers. That was like his great aunties, and that was a funny. Like, speaking of community spirit, that was called Victory Cottage, and all the neighbours came together to build that for his great auntie's family back in the day, I think. So it's just like a house that no one was living in, and yeah, we just started using that as Buzz's cottage, where he lifts gas barrels and does push-ups and all mad shit. And I think once a crow died in there because it got stuck, and I remember the poor bastard had shat everywhere, and we came in there, it just stunk. And Mike was like, "Yeah, we get the cleaners in for this one." I think there was like mice living in there at one stage.
So, look, just Martin, humour me, right? Let's do some of the accents that you're gonna. I know you're really good at doing accents. Is it accents, impressions? Impressions.
Yeah.
So, your voice, it was different to what you speak now, wasn't it? It was more.
Well, the thing is, I was like, my parents are Irish, but I was born in Merseyside, so I've kind of it's softened lately because I've been between Sweden, Ireland, and England, so I'm kind of, it's a mixture of all different kind of accents. But the character talks is like very, west of Ireland. We took a lot of inspiration from the way my dad talks. He'd be like, "Stop, would you, son?" And he'd say, before it was like before the S's to be like a H just coming after the S. So he'd be like, I saw you up on the street the last night, or like West. I'm going to Westport. I have a couple of pints then.
Westport. I can't do it.
But I tell you something that I've noticed. Like, obviously we've got fans now in England and America, and it's funny, like, lads coming on going, like, there's these lads from Long Island, they're on Instagram, and they got onto me, they're like, "Story with you, Durkin." Like, just to hear like lads from Long Island, and English lads, I was doing a few gigs in London there last year, and there was just lads from Essex going, "Story, any crack?" I'm like, wow, we've figured out like a way where, because in the old days, like, top of the morning to you, really bad kind of like Tom Cruise in Far and Away kind of accents, or Jared Butler in P.S. I Love You, but now there's like it's funny to see people from all over the world talking with these.
Can you do Viper? Go on. What's the crack?
What's the crack? It's like, yeah. It's like I was caught for smashing wing mirrors uptown. I was in Castlereagh prison for a week. I was high on wine, the grapes of wrath. Yeah.
I don't think I should try that because I'm just going to sound like
I know, do it.
What's the crack?
Not bad at all, Chris.
I'm not laughing at my accent. I'm laughing at that character. He's so.
Yeah, this lad, he's impressed. What do you think, man? Good job, is it?
Hey, that could be the first member of my fan club.
The fan club.
What's the crack?
Yeah. Do you ever smoke hashish? I heard you're over there in China with Triad boys smoking crystals.
Let's talk about
Hong Kong Fooey and the boys. Fu Manchu, is it?
Hong Kong Fooey. No, that's not even.
I heard you over there in Indochina. Some bad woo out there, hey. What was China like? What, like Hong Kong, man? That must have been mental. Was that the 90s, was it?
Yeah, no, it's good fun, mate. It was good fun. Even when I was at my worst, it was just still mental. It really was. It was really hard to come back to the UK because I was like up there in Hong Kong. I mean, literally, I was up there.
And where are you from in the UK? Are you from London or are you from Devon originally?
I was born in southeast London, a place called Bromley.
Bromley, yeah.
I lived in the southwest of England.
So would you be a Hammers fan?
Not really. I don't have a connection. My only connection to London is I'm the chaplain of the Red Army Riding Club, which is a motorbike club. So I get to go up there several times a year, which is really nice for me being a Janner being a person of the South or person near the sea. But yeah, there was a point in my adult life where I realized I'd actually lived abroad more of my life than I had in the UK. So I lived, like, I think I mentioned this, I lived in whereabouts in Sweden are you without being too...
Stockholm.
Ah, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
so the capital.
The capital, yeah.
Yeah.
It's very trendy. A lot of real trendy people, you know, it's awesome. It's
What's
like,
the crack?
what's the crack? Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if they'd ever buy the Hardy books and put it on Swedish TV. I could imagine there'd be a lot of complaints.
I'll tell you what, you could do a Swedish version. It would be bloody awesome.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea, actually. Like lads up in Dalarna.
Do you speak Swedish?
Yeah, fluently at this stage.
Wow.
Well, I wouldn't say fluently. Sometimes, I would be definitely, conversational. So I'd use it daily. I'd speak Swedish on a daily basis.
Because what used to get me is Swedish people and Norwegian would speak to each other in the same language, even though it's a different countries, and it actually is
mad.
different languages. But they would know, like an English guy talking to
someone from...
let's just say a Scottish guy. I know that sounds weird because you...
Glasgow.
English, but it's a different dialect, but you get what the other person's saying, right? And that... But I worked in... I've been in Norway off and on for about 4 years now. So the last time I was there, when I lived there for 9 months, like in one period. I tried to learn Norwegian as much as I could.
Norska.
Yeah, norsk. Jeg sprache norsk. God, I can't even remember it now. You forget so quickly, don't you? You know. Jeg går til Oslo næste uke. I'm going to Oslo next week. That's I loved it. I love when I'm in a place where it's Hong Kong, I just try and learn a language,
That's important to do so.
But
it's
when I used to speak Norwegian in Sweden, they just look at me and go, "You're talking Norwegian." I'm like, "Yeah, but you guys understand, don't you?" It's kind of a funny thing.
I think the weird thing is, Danes and Norwegians can speak Swedish, and they for some reason they find it easier to speak Swedish than the Swedes do Norwegian or Danish. And I think that in some ways it's weird. It's kind of like they have the ability to speak Swedish. And I remember hearing a story about some mates of mine years ago. They were staying at a hostel I think it was in Copenhagen. They were talking to these two punks from Oslo. And they were talking about fighting. They're like, yeah, but the accent was so hard to understand that they were speaking to each other in English, but they didn't have the best English. They were talking about a fight they had, and like, I punched this guy till bits fell off his face. In other words, he meant he had a nosebleed. Bits fell off his face.
I tell you a funny thing, right? And this is no disrespect meant to my Swedish brothers or sisters whatsoever. But when I was there, and I spent a lot of time in Sweden, my girlfriend at the time was in Östersund. So
up north.
University town, right? Östersund.
Östersund, yeah.
Anyway, the impression you get, and maybe quite rightly so, is that Swedes kind of think they're like the movers and shakers in the universe. Like it's all happening, they're at the grassroots of, they're on the ball, man.
Cutting edge.
Where's crack?
Let's crack with the trendy boys.
But when you come to England, as you well know, most people don't even know where Sweden is, and people think I take the piss from it. No. Whenever I mention, I had a girlfriend.
Switzerland, is it?
Yeah. You just said it, mate. They start, whenever I mention Sweden in the UK, they start talking about cuckoo clocks and chocolate.
Yeah.
I'm like, that is like that's called Switzerland. It's a completely different country and a different geographical
way out
reason, right?
I think it's because it's got snow there as well. It's like... maybe something to do with watching Cool Runnings, and it's like watching the Swiss bobsleigh team going, yeah, Jamaica, yeah, we're going to beat you. What are you doing in here? And but
who was that long running chat show host in America that he did his own like private radio show. He was very iconic. He's probably still maybe he's dead now. I'm not sure. Do you know the guy I mean? He had like long black hair, little glasses, and he'd do his radio. Was it Howard Stern?
Howard Stern.
Or maybe I might be getting confused. It doesn't really matter. But somebody said to him one day, "Are you not scared living in New York?" And he went, "Fuck no." He said, "New York don't scare me." He said, "Sweden." Sweden fucking... He says, "In Sweden, you're at a traffic light, someone will come over, knock on your car window and go, 'Why haven't you turned your engine off?'" He said, "That fucking scares me."
Yeah. I mean, like, you got Greta Thunberg, man.
What is that about?
I don't know. If she was making any difference, she wouldn't be up in front of Davos and giving time, or she wouldn't be in front of the UN.
Weird, isn't it? All that, that when the narrative goes like that, it all just...
COVID expert now as well on CNN, saying that I wouldn't trust CNN to tell me what time of day it was.
Don't watch it, mate. Probably like yourself. I don't watch TV. Someone the other day was getting upset because I said, "Oh, I sit down with my partner to watch an hour of TV in the evening." No, I don't mean TV. I mean, we watch YouTube. YouTube. We got it on our big telly. We just put the YouTube on.
You see, this is the thing as well. Like, if you like, I was doing a live stream there last week, and I was saying how, if you think back to, I was talking about David Icke and the time he was on Wogan, and my sister Tricia, she always had great time for David Icke, for like even before because she used to say to me about 15 years ago, she thought, David Icke this, David Icke, he believes he says Boxcar Willie is a lizard, and I was like, what? And this kind of stuff. And then she would keep, over the years, she'd be like, "Oh, have you checked out David Icke headlines?" And she was always talking about David Icke, but she had a great fondness for David Icke because she's drawn to characters. And then I was talking about the time he went on Terry Organ, and he was like, "David, they're not laughing with you, they're laughing at you." And I was talking about how broad TV, like in the 90s and the 80s, and it was a captive audience. You had unless you had Sky, you had like a choice of 4 channels on terrestrial TV. So what happened with David Icke when he went on Wogan, it was the guy would have, that was BBC One. So you're talking a third of the country seen him being, and fairness to him, he was opening his heart. And fair play to him for going out there and being so candid about his experiences. And Wogan took the piss out of him and got everyone laughing at him and humiliated him in front of, probably a third of the country. So news, you just watch the news. It was like, right, it was on the news, so therefore it was real. Same thing with like Savills. Like, I used to think, Savills, he's great. And then you're like looking back, and like, guy was a fucking raving. You're looking at him now, and you're like, what the fuck was everyone thinking? How did no one know? But it's because TV told you. It was like, okay, trust TV. So like,
he had a green beret. They gave him the honorary green beret of the Royal Marines, and
look at this, right? You've got Prince Andrew, good mates with Epstein. Charles, good mates with Savile. Rolf Harris does a portrait with the Queen. You're kind of thinking, yeah, nice bunch, good bunch of people are like, and the thing is, TV made everyone be like, the advent of the internet has kind of just exposed all this shit, and for better or worse, it's people are now going, the whole U-Tree thing wouldn't have happened without the internet. And in fairness to David Icke, he called this years ago. And it was great when he went back on Terry Wogan, and it was brilliant. It was like, I'm back, and he got a round of applause at the end of it. But yeah, that's gonna be great. You're gonna get him on the show next week.
Well, I'm just, can I say, I'm talking to his people.
Yeah, it was so.
I don't mean that disrespectfully. Richard's got hold of me. He seems a very nice man. They run this platform now called Iconic. And I'm more than happy to go and speak on it because, why would I not? I really do. You know, if you want, I just think, you know, David Icke thinks everyone laughed at him back in the 90s, right?
I said there's a lot of people who didn't. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. A lot of people didn't. Like, this is, people might go, oh yeah, Maloney, he's a conspiracy theorist. No, it's just fucking common sense, man. It's like, I don't understand why people are so...
But mate, we don't have to apologise. You know, we don't have to apologise.
We're
clearly the thinkers in the world. I'm careful what I say.
Well,
but
here's the other thing, Chris. Like, why are you into this? Same reason as me, because you have a love for humanity.
Yeah.
You have a love for our home, which is the earth. You know, it's like, I come from this because I'm interested in this because I've always been interested in this kind of thing since I was a kid. But like, especially when you have kids of your own, you realize that these soldiers who are going to fight battles, they're someone's sons, they're someone's daughters.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why the whole thing
get
about
their fucking legs blown off
and come back
missing an eye to make Tony Blair and George Bush even richer than they already are. That's all. That is essentially what we're talking about. It's not about freedom and democracy. It's
about decency. You know, and it's like these guys who come back fucking ruined and you know, maimed, mentally ill from the fucking shit they've seen and endured.
Yeah.
And they're tossed out then. They're like, how many veterans do you see who are just like homeless on the street?
This is my thing. Mate, this is my thing. I don't have to apologise to it. I don't have to explain myself because I ran 1,000 miles in 2018. I ran it pretty much non-stop. John O'Groats to Land's End, to raise awareness of veteran suicide. It's an epidemic. More people kill themselves after the war than die in the war.
Combat.
Vietnam,
no one's talking about it.
You know, that these sociopaths will cover that up because they don't want people to know that. They don't want people to know that when you invade someone's country and you kill other teenagers, you're a teenager.
Yeah.
You go and kill other teenagers who've done nothing to you. In fact, to be honest, if you met them in a bar, you'd just be sharing pints, hugging and going, you're a really good guy. I fucking love you. You know, let's
What music you into?
Here's my email address. Let's keep in touch.
Exactly.
These sickos to sell their bombs, bullets, and guns and get their global banking system and all the rest of it, they convince you that there's a good guy and a bad guy, right? And there's an enemy out there, and it's you know, it's an absolute facade.
See, people, this is the other thing about Hollywood, because the people are raised watching these you know, action movies, war movies that glorify. The best kind of films you should watch is films like They Should Not Grow Old, where you see these people and you hear like that's a brilliant documentary, the Peter Jackson one about the trenches in World War One, and it's like, and you hear these lads, you know, the poor bastards, man, you know, God bless them, you know, the kids who they were all conned in, like in Ireland. In Ireland, they promised Ireland home rule, so you had like, I mean, there are relatives of like ancestors of mine and other people in the villages my parents would have grown up that went out to the Battle of the Somme, Flanders, and just got butchered. And you know, it's for what? Yeah, but it's like that, you know, the film which is based on true story, Joyeux Noel, which was about like the lads playing football at Christmas time, and all those guys who refused to fight were sent off to different places. I mean, this is the thing, man. Like regular people don't want this, but they get hyped up with propaganda and you know, made to believe that these people are going to try and kill their families. And I was thinking who you remind me of, Pete, who plays French shows, and maybe you should get in touch with him, because himself and his mate Steve did a run from Dublin to Mayo last year for the Beaumont Hospital, because Steve, who plays Cowboy, they have you can find them on Instagram, 3 Books Left. They started their own like splinter group of a comedy show, but those guys they're on about running the entire perimeter of Ireland next year, And I think it's the amount of coastline, or the length of it is supposed to be massive. The outline of Ireland, the coast. But they did this run last year for charity. But man, like they would run like 80 kilometers in a day, and you'd be right in with those lads. You should get him on the podcast as well, because he's got some
Tell him to come on.
brilliant stories. Yeah, I'll tell him
to come on.
They're great guys, man. And again, he's got a great heart as well. Like he does a lot of voluntary work, and when he was abroad, like he did the round the world trip there in 2006, and he ended up working in a hospice in Calcutta. And that's the kind of stuff. And he doesn't do it because he's the kind of guy. He doesn't do it to look what I've done. He'll do it and he won't say anything about it. It's just he's one of these old school kind of stoic lads who just likes to put something back. And again, the whole thing I try and teach my kids as well is about being grateful. I watched a brilliant. I was just in the pub last night and it had the subtitles on, but it was I think it's called the tea ceremony, and it's about this Japanese woman called Sakura. Can't remember her last name, but man, I felt I didn't. I'm going to watch it again because she was so stoic and grateful. Like, and it's just one of these old women you just wanted to like give a hug to, and then like do some gardening and make a nice meal.
That's a whole really special thing, isn't it? In Japan, it's got to be done in a certain way, and there's so much like esoteric stuff attached.
Man, you want to see this woman? Like, she at the end of it. I mean, I don't know how it panned out for her, but she had a big tumor the doctors had found. Smiled her way through it, like, and the nice thing is she meets these old ladies who are like they're like nearly 90, and then next, and she's just got a little van, and she drives around and unpacks all this stuff, and she's feeding fishermen or monks or businessmen, and there's like, it was cool to see it talking to these two old ladies who were like 90, and the way they complimented each other was very, very nice, very genuine. And then later on, there's like 3 schoolgirls, and you hear some of them had to be evacuated from Fukushima. And her attitude, and the answer was, "What luck that you went through something so horrific but found new friends." And you just see her smiling throughout the whole thing, and she lived her life in kind of servitude, and there was a great stoicism to her. And you just thought, I watched it and I was like, that's the takeaway is just to be grateful and smile and it's the way you look at things in life, no matter how hard things get, as you know this yourself. And I've been through some hard times myself as well. But you've got to have a good morale, you've got to have a good sense of humor about it, and always try and find the positive. And that little old lady, Sakura, when I watched that, it just warmed my heart,
Mate, you got to take your chestnuts where you find them, and it's make them your own, make them your own. Martin, listen, I'm well aware it's getting late where you are.
Sure is. Got to be up with the kids in the morning, but You know what? Time flies, Chris, and I appreciate your viewers who have stuck with us. I thought it was going to be a 45-minute chat, but we've covered a lot of ground here, mate. It's been fantastic, and I'll definitely get you on the Hardy Books podcast as well.
Yeah, let's do that. And it goes without saying, mate, you're welcome back on. Well, I mean, you are going to come back on because we've just got so much more to talk about, mate. We really have. It's crazy, isn't it? We talked for about 3 hours. We literally have not scratched it. There's so much more,
I've barely scratched my arse, Chris.
What's the crack?
Yeah. Tell Robbie Williams he can come on the podcast.
Yeah, I'll speak to Rob, mate. Do you know what? It's the sort of thing he'd probably love to do.
He's more than welcome. David Icker's someone I really want to get on the podcast. And like I say, off-topic stuff, you know what I mean? Like, just be like, what do you think? What do you think is going to happen with Liverpool? Are they going to get it this year?
Yeah, no, this is what me and my producer have been chatting about. I'd love to go to the Isle of Wight and just kick a football around with him, go to the pub, have lunch.
I saw a documentary about him. It was years ago. He was in Canada, and there's these people like who were trying to custard pie him, and one of his sons, I don't know if it's Jamie, he was going around to his talks in like a community centre, and he goes, "All right, Jamie, save this one." And the kid was in goals, but he boots the ball at him. Like there was no, it was just, he had a good solid kick on him. He was a goalie, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was goalie. Yeah. From what I remember, yeah.
He could fairly belt them into the net anyway.
Yeah, he's a fucking legend, absolute legend, and this is people like that. We need, they need to have a voice, and when they get silenced, it's what really.
Got to circle the wagons, haven't you?
What did he do? Seriously, what did he do? He just spoke his truth. No one, we have. I thought that was part of the Human Rights Charter, that we got freedom of speech.
Yeah,
I know.
Don't you think it's strange as well, Chris, that all these people saying he's spreading hate when there's not a hate? Yeah, it's like, oh, he was kicked off from YouTube because he was spreading hate.
All he ever says is love everybody, spread the love. That is all he ever says.
But isn't it funny? It's so Orwellian, the fact that people who are coming from a place of love and trying to make the world a better place, it's been inverted to, oh, you're spreading hate.
Yeah, well, this is why people need to read 1984 to understand what thought policing is. People are
or the Patriot Act.
What it is when we're not allowed to joke anymore because it's all so politically this way or that way. When we lose our sense, when we're not allowed to laugh, we're fucked.
And what is laughter, Chris? The best medicine.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, you take that away, people are going to get depressed. That's why Hardy Books was so popular, because it was recession. We brought something that came out of the recession and cheered people up.
Yeah.
And that's what Dave Chappelle also said. It's now more than ever, it's a time for comedians to talk recklessly.
Was he wearing a dress when he said that? Sorry, Dave. Just saying. Martin, I love you, man. Thank you so much.
It's been an absolute pleasure, Chris.
Thank you for your humanity. Let's give my love to Sweden, by the way.
Well, indeed. Tell
Sweden
we're asking for you.
I could go back there tomorrow. I've had such a great time in Scandinavia.
Well, whenever you're back, hit me up.
Yeah, well, let's come and hopefully let's get the cameras and come and do something. Just a walk in the park and a chat would be.
Bit of a swim in the lake.
Yes. We can eat some
surströmming.
What's the Carly caviar? Have you had that one? It's the
caviar.
It comes in a tube, and it's actually I don't think it's caviar.
It's nice. It's nice when you get used to it.
Yeah, fish flavored cod or something.
I think it's like fish and like fish roe and milk. It's like a kind of a mixture of cheese and caviar. Yes. When you first come in, you try it. There's a lot of shit you like. But on that note, I will let you go, mate. But Chris, thank you for having me on, and it's been an absolute pleasure. And thank you to your audience for sticking around. And if they're interested in the channel, hit me up on Maloney's Digest or watch more Hardy Books.
Hey, listen,
or the podcast as well.
We're going to put all your links below the video so people can come and find you.
Awesome.
We never even talked about Vikings, but let's not go there now.
That's for another time.
You've been on Vikings, my God. We'll talk about that next time, brother. Yeah, but thank you so much.
Very welcome. It's a pleasure.
Making contact, and as you can tell, because it's now 20 past 12 in the morning.
Yeah.
20 past 12.
20 past 1 here.
Yeah, 20 past 1 where you are. That it's been amazing talking to you, Martin. Thank you so much.
Oh, a bit of pleasure. Chris, thank you very much, mate. Have a great night.
Hey, let's speak soon.
Take care, man.
Cheers,
Bye-bye.
brother. Hello, friend. I hope this finds you well. My name's Chris THRALL. I'm a former Royal Marines Commando, and I fought my way back from chronic trauma and addiction to live, work and travel in 80 countries across all 7 continents, achieving all of my dreams and goals along the way. Now I pass my simple system on to other people, but I can only help you if you like and subscribe. So please do so, because you get one life, and if you live it right, one is enough.